afternoon with everyone. Welcome to the 11th presentation of the second day of the conference, Challenges, Opportunities, and Reflections on ELT. My name is Carlos Minga. I'm a student of fourth semester in the English language teaching major in UNAE. I am responsible for hosting this presentation today, and I'm very glad to welcome Dr. Rana Bilal, who holds a PhD and an MA in English language teaching from the UK. He also is a senior lecturer in EFL and ESOL at East Sussex, UK, and the head of training and development at NESD, UK. He also is an international published author in the fields of ELT and ESP. He believes in a sustainable education ecosystem and has keen interest in the application of theoretical knowledge to development of vocational competencies in professional environments. And today, he will present Empowering Teachers to Meet the Learning Styles of Students, a case study. You can write your questions, comments, or doubts on the comment section, and at the end of the presentation, Dr. Bilal will answer questions from the audience. Without further ado, here's our guest. We can start with the presentation, Dr. Bilal.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Carlos. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Hello, everyone. It's probably good afternoon in Ecuador, and it's good evening in England at the moment. Today, I'm going to talk about empowering teachers to meet the learning styles of students, case study. So that's what I am. My email address is there, and I'm a senior lecturer, and I'm also the head of training and development in the UK. Okay, basically, let me introduce this whole project. Basically, this case study is related to a country named Pakistan, where I worked for almost 4 or 5 years before coming to the UK, and my family, some of my family members, they live there basically. So this research was conducted in Pakistan. So the setting of this research is in Pakistan actually. A little bit about Pakistan. Actually, Pakistan came into being in 14th of August 1947, and before that it was a part of larger India, and we have been a British colony, and we have received English language as a colonial heritage. So it's been almost 74 years. This country came into the map of the world. And education in Pakistan, basically, it's a responsibility of the Ministry of Education in Pakistan. There are different provinces who have the, like, you can call them states. They have the states ministries, and then they have the federal ministry, which talks about the Ministry of Education. Because Pakistan is an Islamic country, so the basic aim for any and objective of any educational policy of Pakistan is education and training should enable the citizens of Pakistan to lead their lives according to the teachings of Islam as laid down in Quran and Sunnah. Quran is a holy book, and Sunnah the role model of Prophet Muhammad, and to educate and train them to be true practicing Muslims. This is the document, which is Ministry of Education document in Pakistan. So it is very important to keep in mind that whatever educational policy the policymakers in Pakistan make, it should have a direct link with the Islamic belief system, because this is what they want. Pakistan is a big country. It's a big country. They have a population of over 220 million people, and if we see the educational institute, there are approximately 175,600 educational institutes in Pakistan at the elementary, secondary, upper secondary, and higher education levels. Elementary education or primary education, it's not compulsory, but it's free. The primary stage includes grade 1 to grade 5. So it means like from year 1 to year 5, it's called the elementary or the primary age. And the second step is the lower secondary education, which include from grade 6 to grade 10, like they spend another 5 years in secondary education. And English language learning, basically, it starts from that age, which is the 6 years in the grade 6. Then they move to upper secondary education, and by the time they turn into 15 or 14, and continues for 2 years. And the secondary school certificate is the admission requirement for the university study. And after that, they go into the system. Um, and if we just see the whole system, because I have been a teacher there and I have been teaching, and I have been talking to the colleagues, it's a very traditional way of teaching, which is very much like teacher centered. Teacher does everything in the classroom. I mean, there is no learner uh, autonomy in the classroom where learner can ask questions and all those things. So the purpose of this whole research was to identify an educational problem specifically related to teaching methods in Pakistani education system. Um, the system shows that most of the teachers, they use a very traditional way of teaching, and that traditional way of teaching does not make any connection with the learning style of the students. Um, we all know this is happening, but nobody ever tried to do it, to evaluate it, that is this actually happening or not. So I mean, people say, oh well, system is not working, but nobody even tried to do a kind of an evaluative study which can actually find what is happening there. So basically what I did is I conducted an action research in schools of Pakistan, and what I did is I tried to introduce Bloom's taxonomy and the multiple intelligence theory, to incorporate into that system, and then try to find out the results, that what kind of results do we get once we train the teacher and all those things. So this is what I did, like Bloom's taxonomy and multiple intelligence will be paid to bring. Okay, if you see the objectives of all this research, simple, it's very simple. It's the three objectives we decided, that to identify the educational problems, specifically related to teaching methods in Pakistan education system. And the second objective was application of Bloom's taxonomy and the multiple intelligence theory to bring diversification in teaching methods, which is more related to teacher training, and suggesting possible solutions in order to undertake the most appropriate leadership styles to bring about change in teaching styles. So with these objectives, we conducted this research in Pakistan. Keeping in view, this was a very big project, and this project lasted for almost 2.5 years, because we had to cover a large population and we had to cover a large sample. So that's why this project was a very, very long. The hypothesis was students learn differently and teachers need to teach differently so that all students will learn. And the hypothesis was, if teacher use Bloom's taxonomy for educational objectives and multiple intelligence-based instructional activities, then students with diverse learning needs will have their needs met and will learn better and faster. So this was the kind of hypothesis we had in our mind when we started doing this project. Methodology, basically it's a bi-stage data collection. So there was 2 stages of this whole procedure. Stage 1 was data was collected to confirm the problem that the teachers in Pakistan are not equipped with teaching methods which match learning styles of students. As I said before, yes, people have been talking about it. Oh, teachers are not doing good, system is not working, program is not generating enough students, but there was no research about it. So what we did is, in the first stage, we tried to collect the data, well, to find out whether it is true that teachers are not equipped with the learning style of students. And the second stage was designing and implementing the intervention. And the aim was to introduce Bloom's taxonomy and multiple intelligence theory along with different instructional method. Training sessions would help teachers to learn new ways of doing the same things through varied activities according to learning style of students. And after the intervention plan, data was collected to see the results of post-intervention after conducting teaching session from mindless to mindful teaching and learning. So this was the title of the program we conducted as a teacher trainer to intervene the plan. So understand it. So there were two stages. One is to confirm, yes, the styles are not working. And number two, after the intervention, when we conducted a teacher training sessions using Bloom's taxonomy and multiple intelligence theory. Keeping in view, it was action research. The aims and purpose of action research are about improving learning for improving practice, which are different from the aims and purpose of traditional forms of research. Because we were doing it to improve the system, and we were inside the system where we were talking to students, we were going to schools, we were talking to students, we were talking to teachers, we were talking to policymakers, and the ultimate goal was to bring improvement in the system. So that's why it was known as the action research. Okay. So to make sure the problem exists, I had to gather data by different methods. In other words, it leads to problem identification in a more authentic way. In the first and second phase of data collection, I used methods which could first highlight the problem and then show whether or not the teachers had brought change. So we use triangulation. We use observations, we use questionnaires, we use interviews. And the purpose of triangulation was to see what teachers said about a question on the questionnaire or interview. Another purpose of triangulation was to minimize the complexity of opinions in order to select it. So we had a big sample. We have almost 200 schools, and they were all at the secondary level. And we have 1,000 teachers. They were teaching similar curriculum, which was prescribed by the government of Pakistan. So what we did is, basically, I prepared a questionnaire with a combination of closed-ended and open-ended questions. And there was structured observation sheet through which I was observing some specific elements of teaching, like teaching styles, instruction techniques, critical thinking, and all the questions and interviews, they were more related to their skill, their knowledge, their style, their motivation, use of infrastructure, developing critical skills, and all those things. So this is what we did. So I had to go to different schools to meet with the teachers. I had to conduct interviews. I had to conduct questionnaires, and all those things. And all those things we did. And all those things happened in two stages. They happened in first stage, when there was no intervention. Teachers was teaching, and the same thing happened in the stage two. And stage two mean after the intervention, when we conducted the teacher training program. So the results which we got, that was very interesting results. The teacher developed activities. So this is the first stage, when before pre-intervention stage. The teacher developed activities which help to learners to memorize facts and concept. And such activities cannot provide help with analysis, synthesis, or judging the ideas, opinion, and experiences of others. The teacher are not able to create an engaging learning experience. And teacher use lectures, whiteboards, and demonstrations. They never use videos, they never use bulletin boards, they never use overhead projectors, they have never used multimedia, they never use discussions. And you will be shocked to know that 88% of teachers did not apply other teaching methods. The rest of teachers use more or less same activities as we talked about. So it was like a dictatorial classes before the intervention, where a teacher is everything and they are just going into class, they deliver a lecture, no discussion, no encouragement to students where they can ask questions, and there was nothing where they can critically thinking. So what we did is, then we did an intervention. We created a teacher training session, which I talked before. The teacher training session was, we did that, and this is when we And the teacher training session was, the name of session was from mindless to mindful teaching and learning. So this was the whole package through which we created the whole teacher training session. And it was inspired by Bloom's taxonomy and multiple intelligence theory. And and once we conducted these teacher training session, we had to collect the data again. And when we collected the data, and now the data shows that the 152 teachers were not using diverse teaching styles. These 152 teachers was not ready to teach with diverse teaching method. Instead, they were sticking with the teaching in the same routine. So out of 1,000 teachers, 152 did not do well. I mean, they were same. But 482 teachers encouraged questions, students' participation, interacted with students, and used techniques which reflects learning style of students. And the classrooms were more student-oriented. And there was a lot of interaction before teacher and students. So this was the results which came after the intervention plan. Keeping in view, in Pakistan, when you become a teacher, there is a no pre-teacher training. There is a no pre-teacher institute which tells you to become a teacher. You do your degree and then you go for an interview and you become a teacher. And then some schools, some universities, they offer you in-service teacher training, which could enable. So this is what we did. We did a complete teacher training session. And what happened in conclusion? The entire data collection of second phase shows that after training sessions, how much teachers has changed. I was aware before training that all teachers may not change even after training sessions. The rationale behind selecting or choosing 1,000 teachers for training session was to see whether all teachers change their teaching practice or few of them adapt new ways of teaching. So although 947 teachers attended the training session, only 652 of them accepted the change. This was found through observations, questionnaires, and interviews. So if we say in terms of data, more than 50 or 60% teachers, they were eager or they adapted that Bloom's taxonomy and the intelligence theory of learning, and they tried to and they adapted and they developed their teaching style accordingly. But why some teachers did not change their practice even after training session? It's a big question. And the assumed reasons are probably they were more comfortable in using the routine teaching methods they were used to, or those teachers who accepted the change were looking keener to know about the problems and also to reflect and change their teaching practice. And they also took more interest to learn new ways of teaching. So this is again assumed reasons. There's no data for that. And research continues because now the research will continue on the basis of these assumed reasons that why some teachers adapted new styles of learning and why some teachers could not adapt themselves according to the new style of student learning, which matches the student learning style. And this is an open research. It could be their attitude, their belief, their motivation. So lots of factors they are involved in that. So if I make one line statement about the whole research project was that it was an action research through which we intervened a plan using a Bloom's taxonomy and intelligence theory of learning, and we tried to create a teaching style of the teachers which can go according to the learning styles of the students. We collected data and everything, and the results shows that after that intervention, there was an improvement in the teaching style of teachers. I'm sorry, I've put these references on a very small, but it's a big list of references. And yeah, thank you. Yes, Carlos, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bilal. I hope you... Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Bilal. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing presentation. Now we will answer some questions from the audience. Our first question is from Marta Lara, and it says, how can you teach according to the students' kind of intelligence if you have large classes? For example, classes of 80 students.
Okay. I think there was some distortion in your question. Okay, the first question was how you can teach large classes if the student have 80 students. This is what we talk about. This is the question, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Number one.
Yes.
Okay. Number one, of course, I do understand in some of the countries it's a big issue. Okay, that the number of students, they are very high in classrooms. For example, in the UK, we have maximum 20 students, 20 to 22 students in a one classroom. Okay, so how to deal with the large classes? Okay, we call it a kind of a theory of simulation. Okay, a simulation mean in the large class, teacher divided the class into smaller groups based upon their needs analysis. Okay, so teacher go into the classroom. In the first two lectures, he does a needs analysis, that what kind of students are good at this level, this level, this level. So he divides the class into different groups, and then designing those activities based upon the needs analysis for a specific group. For example, a class of 80 students, probably you can divide the class into 4 groups. 20 students, they might be on the same level. 20 on the same level, 20 on the same level, 20 on the same level. This is just an assumption, just an example. And then being a teacher, you need to devise your activities for those 20s who are, for example, on a level 1, next 20 who are on level 2, next 20 who are on a level 3. So this is called a simulation, theory of a simulation, where we divide or where we make groups within the class to encourage students to learn. Otherwise, might be some people are on a higher level and they get bored. Might be some people are on a very lower level and they feel it very challenging. So being a teacher, it's your responsibility to divide the class into groups and then make your activity as per the needs and the requirements of every group.
Oh, okay. And our second question is, do you think the different local cultures had an impact on the results?
Yes. You know, I mean, when we talk about, okay, if we see the definition of language skills, okay, generally we talk about there are 4 language skills: reading, writing, speaking, listening. Okay, but now there are 5. One is reading, writing, speaking, listening, and culture. Cultural trends are very important in language learning. Yes, culture impact a lot, and that's why I always believe you should work on your localized version of English language. Okay, for example, in Pakistan or for example in Middle East, where the names are like Abdullah, Muhammad, Malik, Muhammad. So what they do is they try to change the names of Michael, Georgia, Stella with their local names, and they try to encourage their local English authors to produce the textbooks which have their own cultural traditions. Okay, so in this way students learn more because they are more acquired, they're more acquaintance, they have more acquaintance with the culture. So it's very important that we try to encourage our local English writers, and we try to use the nativity in our English language classrooms, where we try to bring local cultural activities so that our student could get better understanding of that English language. I mean, once they are good at an English, then they can read Shakespeare. I mean, then they can read George Eliot, then they can read Hemingway. But to start with, they have more understanding of their own cultural English language.
Thank you for your answers, and thank you again, Dr. Bilal, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us. So with this, we conclude these presentations. Thank you for all for attending, and we hope you have learned and enjoyed this. Please stay tuned at the same link for our next presentation, Data-Driven Learning in an EFL Class, a study of Ecuadorian learners' perceptions.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Thank you very much. Thank you.
and welcome to the second day of the conference, Challenges, Opportunities, and Reflections in ELT. My name is Pamela Tavallo. I'm a 7th semester student in the major English language teaching at UNAE. Today I will be hosting this presentation number 13, and for me it's a pleasure to present today's speakers. They are over Ismael, Conza, Armijos, and Liliana, Fernanda, Celi. Over Conza holds a BA in Education and English Language Teaching from Universidad Nacional de Loja. He is a former co-teacher scholar at Kansas State University. He is a candidate in the MA TOEFL program at the Escuela Superior Politécnica del Litoral. He has been teaching EFL since 2013 and has worked in private and public settings with adolescents and young adults. Currently, he works as an EFL instructor at UNAE Language Center. And Liliana Celi holds a BA in Education and English Language Teaching from Universidad Nacional de Loja. She is a former scholar under the program International Postgraduate 2018. She holds an MA in Applied Linguistics with TESOL awarded by the University of Sheffield. She has been teaching EFL for 10 years, and she currently works at UTPL as an EFL instructor and at Pio Jaramillo Alvarado School as an EFL teacher. Today, they will present Data-Driven Learning in an EFL class, a study of Ecuadorian learners' perceptions. Remember also that you can write your questions, comments, or doubts in the chat, and at the end, the presenters will answer them. Welcome, Over and Liliana, you may begin.
Okay, thank you. We would like to start by thanking the organizers of the ELT Congress for giving the opportunity to teachers and researchers to present their findings of their studies. This time we're going to present to you our study entitled Data-Driven Learning in an EFL Class, Study of Ecuadorian Learners' Perceptions. My name is Over Conza, and I work as an EFL instructor at Universidad Nacional de Educación, and this is my colleague Lili.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Liliana Celi. I am an EFL instructor at Universidad Técnica Particular de Loja. It's a pleasure to be here with you all, and thank you very much for joining our presentation.
Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Previous research has reported an increased interest in the implementation of data-driven learning, or DDL, in English as a foreign or second language learning. This approach was derived from corpus linguistics and emerged as a learner-centered approach where students had to identify patterns in natural occurrences of language. Many studies have reported and investigated the effects of DDL on different linguistic components such as the grammar, vocabulary, and writing. And therefore, we have available literature that supports the implementation of DDL in EFL classes. This study seeks to document the experience of 14 EFL students from a public university in Ecuador and examine their perceptions towards the implementation of DDL activities over the course of a unit. The intervention included 2 stages. The first stage was assisted guidance for students to retrieve information on their own. And the second stage included corpus-based materials developed by the teacher to cover the content of the unit.
Okay, so Over already explained the germane importance a DDL approach has. And from our perspective and from the extensive research we did, we have noticed that within an Ecuadorian context, it has not been widely explored. Therefore, our study sought to answer the 2 following questions. The first is, what are Ecuadorian EFL university learners' perceptions of adopting a DDL approach for grammar learning? And what approach to learning grammar do students prefer? Okay, let me begin by saying that our major motivation to conduct this study was the unprecedented situation. This was a swift change to our learning environment. Almost 2 years ago, we all were working on site, and sometimes there were not enough computers for all the students in our class, and to make matters worse, the internet connection did not work properly. These new conditions, some way, supported the implementation of a DDL approach in one of the researcher classes. Nowadays, most of our students have access to an electronic device and they have internet connection because they have to work in a complete virtual environment. This small-scale research took place in an elementary EFL class at a public university. And to gauge our students' English proficiency, we gave them an adaptation of the key English test by Cambridge. We say adaptation because we did not include the speaking part. This class consisted of 23 students, of whom 14 students volunteered to participate by signing an informed consent. These students were majoring in teaching and education, and their ages ranged from 20 to 24 years old. Well, our research had a DDL treatment, which consisted of 2 stages. So during stage 1, we had assistant guidance for corpus use. At this point, the teacher gave students deliberate instruction on how to use the COCA interface and QUIC, a COCA tool. QUIC stands for keyword in context. Without explanation, the students have to perform some searches and bring some examples to the class. For stage 2, we have corpus-based materials developed by the teacher, and here the teacher prepares some materials in advance to then be used in class. Students have to gather in groups and analyze the sentences and draw conclusions. So having instructed the students on how to use QUIC, they have to perform the searches, and they all were about quantifiers. Okay, so here we have an example of the 2 different stages. Number 1, well, this is an example that we took from one of the journals of one of our participants. The topic unit was food, and the grammar revolved around quantifiers, how much and how many. So they had to bring food-related examples. And so here we have like a tomato, an apple, some tomatoes, any apples. Whereas picture 2 shows an example of the materials the teacher prepared. So here we have a bunch of sentences that the students have to analyze thoroughly. And then they have to find linguistic patterns and draw conclusions. The idea was to recognize when we have to use how much and how many. Now, Ober is going to tell us more about the methodology of our study.
Thank you, Lily. To gather information about the students' attitudes towards DDL, we relied on 3 instruments. The first one was a quantitative questionnaire. It was an adaptation of 3 major studies conducted under similar circumstances in EFL context. And we chose 15 statements, and students had to rate those statements on a Likert scale from a scale to 1 to 4. For the reflection section, we included some questions that the students had to answer at the end of the intervention, and they had to respond them in the digital foldable. And finally, we asked for volunteers to participate in a follow-up interview. And actually 5 students decided to participate in this part, and then we analyzed the content of the reflection and the follow-up interview. Now, it's worth mentioning that the reflection and the interview were conducted in student cell 1 to allow them to freely express their ideas and irrespective of their English language proficiency. The purpose of including the last 2 instruments was to complement the information provided by students in the first questionnaire. Now, as we already told you, we organized the information under 4 categories. The first one is the tool, and here we have descriptive statistics that we collected from the questionnaire, and it was also supported by information from the interview and the journals. Overall, we can see that the students encountered this experience, that the tool as easy to use, and therefore they also find they didn't have any difficulty in retrieving examples with the target forms. Nonetheless, there were some students who mentioned that the limited number of searches, that was only 10 per day, that constituted a hindrance, and therefore this problem should have been overcome. In the next part, in the next chart, we have the information about the grammar section. And as we can see in the third element about the real text in the corpus are too difficult to understand, we see that the 4 options are evenly distributed. But despite these results, some students mention again in the journal and in in the interview, sorry, they mentioned that the examples that they have there are regarded as of high quality and therefore authentic examples as well. So they regarded them as positive to incorporate them in the classroom for them to understand the grammar of the unit. The next category, what is it, Lily?
Okay, so this third category, stored information pertaining to participants' experience with EDL. And one of the most salient details we would like to highlight here is the fact that students were fully aware of the rationale behind the use of corpus. Why are we saying this? Well, they say that COCA allows for increasing vocabulary as it has a plethora of information paired with authentic examples. This table also shows that students perceive DDL as more challenging than traditional methods because it fosters autonomous learning. And in the previous slides, you saw that in both stages, students could exert autonomy. For example, in the first stage, students had to perform the searches by themselves, and they had to decide which examples they are going to use. Whereas in the second, even though the teacher gave them the examples, they had to work in groups, find the linguistic patterns, and draw conclusions. So there was autonomous learning in both stages. Okay, and for the last category about future recommendations, the majority of the participants indicated that they are likely to use COCA in the future. By analyzing the journals, 12 of our respondents said that they would use COCA in the long term, for example, to do their English homework or to perform any other English-related task. Similarly, most participants would recommend using a DDL approach to cover this unit and future units. Okay, as we are approaching the end of our presentation, we want to go over the conclusions. So, based on the information from the questionnaire, the journals, and the interviews, it's evident that the students had positive impressions regarding the use of a corpus-based approach. They describe COCA as user-friendly, easy to navigate, and the most important thing, they said that COCA exposes them to a natural and authentic language, so they can improve their lexical competence.
Okay, thank you, Lily. The second conclusion that we reached with our study was that the students prefer an inductive approach, as some of them mentioned that it guides the grammar discovery and it enhances the comprehension. And we deem this conclusion quite useful under the current teaching circumstances because remote instruction is not only about like transmitting knowledge, but it's also about engaging the students in the lesson so they can be part of that specific process of discovering those patterns. Nonetheless, as we already pointed out in the questionnaire, some students reported difficulties to navigate COCA. This may be due to the little or no previous experience and to the limited number of searches that they can retrieve if they don't register beforehand. So something that we should keep into account for future research would be to register students beforehand so they could conduct the 50 searches per day that COCA allows most of the users who are registered. And I guess that would be the end of our presentation, and we're open to any of the questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your work with us. And well, now I would like to ask you, what was your biggest challenge developing your work?
I would say that, well, initially we thought about implementing this project with 2 classes, and due to ethical issues, we had to request for students' consent. And out of the participants, because initially we had around 40 students, only 14 agreed to participate. So yeah, I would say that was one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ober. Yeah, we only had 14 participants. That was why it was a small-scale research.
Okay, so thank you very much for answering this question and also for your great intervention. It was a pleasure to have you with us. And so here we conclude this presentation. And thank you all for attending.
Thank
Please
you.
stay here for the next presenter.
Thank you.
Welcome to the 15th presentation of the second day of the conference, Challenges, Opportunities, and Reflections in ELT. My name is Maria Paz Bautista. I am a student of first semester in the English language teaching major at UNAE. I am responsible for hosting this presentation today, and I'm glad to welcome S.M. Agramul Kabir, who works for Otago University in New Zealand as a research assistant. He holds a PhD in education from the University of Canterbury. He obtained his MA in TESOL from Macquarie University, Australia. He has been teaching English to both local and international students for more than 12 years. His areas of research interest include listening skill for language competence, teacher education, discourse analysis, and ICT in education. And today, he will present virtual teaching challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic, a Bangladesh experience. Remember that you can write any question, comment, or thought at the comment section. And at the end of the presentation of SM Agramul Kabir, he will answer your questions. And now, here's our guest. We can start with the presentation.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for your nice introduction. And I say sorry because it's not working somehow for the technical issues. And that's why I can't share the slides simultaneously with my presentation. So I say sorry for that. It's a technical glitch, I should say. Okay, hi viewers. This is SM Akramul Kabir, and I'd like to share my research of teachers' reflection on virtual teaching challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic in Bangladesh. Actually, we are living in such a tough world where COVID-19 has changed everything from our day-to-day life to our teaching and learning process. And pandemic has made our life really harder, and especially our teaching and learning process. So as I have been teaching online since the countries, all the institutions are closed from March 18, 2020. So I have my own experience at the same time in a small scale. I have interviewed 6 ELT teachers who have been teaching online since the pandemic has shut down the institutions in Bangladesh. So, but we have to move on, and that's why the pandemic compelled the secondary schools and their teachers to shift from face-to-face to online mode of education and teaching. And the objective of my research is to provide insights on online teaching. And I focus mainly on to understand how the secondary English teachers adapt themselves to taking online classes despite a number of pedagogical and technical challenges. And at the same time, the research objective is to provide insights into online teaching with the goals of secondary teachers in Bangladesh. And finally, the objective is to help policymakers identify the digital needs of the secondary English teachers and design training programs accordingly. So the methodology that I'd like to describe or I have used in this small scale research is based on qualitative study underpinned by TPEC framework. TPEC is actually one of the online teaching frameworks or technology, pedagogy and content frameworks that can be used for online teaching or digital practices. And the Data are semi-structured interviews transcribed in Roman Bangla, and I use thematic analysis method to identify the themes applying keyword in context techniques. And I have 6 secondary English teachers, and I conducted the interviews online. And what the results have come so far show that most of the teachers, they actually struggle with online teaching classes because they lack of digital competence, and they reported that they are not used to using digital platforms like Zoom or Google Doc and so on. So that is one of the challenges they are facing. And some teachers reported that they struggle to adapt online classes because of their digital discomfort and not familiar with the online softwares that can be used for conducting online classes. And some teachers, they reported that they are technophobic and they feel the urge for digital trainings. And furthermore, one or two participants, they reported that they face challenges when conducting online assessments and providing feedback to the students and keep the record of those gradings. And in this regard, I would like to quote one of the extracts from a teacher. He said, "It seems to me complex to preserve the grading of regular assessments." And in the conclusion, so after having the data and the findings, I explored that the teachers actually need digital trainings covering the different types of technological frameworks or online teaching frameworks so that they can teach online with confidence and competence. So as I said that the methodology is underpinned by TPEC framework for the training purpose, because there are some other frameworks like summer or UTA2 model, but TPEC framework seems relevant here in the context of Bangladesh because it can cover technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge all together to train up the teachers to conduct effective and efficient online classes so that the teaching and learning on virtual classes can be effective and can be successful. Now I can sigh with relief. So feel free to ask me any questions related to my research project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SM Agramul Kabir. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing presentation. Remember that you can write your questions.
And I again apologize that I couldn't share the slides. Actually, it would be better to, for the audience to understand the research.
There are no questions. Thank you again, SM Agramul Kabir, for answering and for presenting this today. It was a pleasure to have with us. So this concludes the presentation. Thank you all for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. You can stay in the same link because there is another work.
Yeah, sure. Thank you too. Thanks. It was really nice to be connected with you and presenting in the conference. Thank you once again.
Thank you.